Rewiring the Way You See Life. Chapter 1. The Lens of Perception. What if everything you've been seeing is just one version of the truth? Right now, two people can stand in the exact same room. One sees chaos, the other sees opportunity. Same room, same moment. Two realities, and the only difference, the lens they're looking through. In this audiobook, we're going to rewire that lens. Over the next 12 chapters, you'll discover how your thoughts shape your world, how scarcity turns into abundance, how your deepest setbacks become your greatest strengths, and how a single shift in perception can change everything. This isn't motivation, it's mental alchemy, and you don't need to be broken to benefit. You just need to be ready to see life, not as it appears, but as it could be. So take a breath, lean in, and get ready to see everything differently. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Lens of Perception. Imagine this. Two people stand in the exact same field at sunrise. One sees mud, broken branches, patches of dead grass. The other sees dew-kissed wildflowers, golden light filtering through the trees, the quiet hum of life waking up. Same field, same moment. Two entirely different realities. And the only thing that changed? The lens through which they saw it. You see, life doesn't happen to us in raw form. It's always filtered through memory, emotion, belief, and expectation. Think of your mind as a camera. If the lens is smudged with fear, doubt, or past pain, everything appears distorted. But clean that lens, even just a little, and suddenly, the world comes into focus. Not because the world changed, but because you did. I learned this early, long before I had the words to explain it. When I was 16, phones were still tethered to walls. No texting, no social media, just silence and the occasional ring. Back then, if I wanted to talk to a friend, I had no way to reach out. So I'd step onto the porch, look up at the sky, and quietly think, "Call me." And almost every single time, within 5 or 10 minutes, the phone would ring. My friends would say, "I don't know why, but I just felt like calling you." At the time, I thought it was coincidence, but now I know better. My mind wasn't just wishing, it was expecting. And that expectation shaped my reality. This isn't magic, it's mindset. And history's greatest minds have echoed this truth. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist imprisoned in Auschwitz during the Holocaust, watched people around him lose hope and wither away. But he made a radical choice. Even in hell, he would choose his inner response. He wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose. While others saw only suffering, Frankl saw meaning, and that meaning became the foundation of his life's work, Man's Search for Meaning, a book that has guided millions out of despair. Now, let's bring this closer to home. Think about the last time something went wrong in your life. Maybe you sent an email and didn't get a reply. Maybe you applied for a job and heard nothing back. Maybe someone you care about pulled away without explanation. What story did your mind tell you in that moment? Did it say, "They're ignoring me. I must not matter"? Or, "Something's come up"? they'll respond when they can. Same event, two interpretations, two emotional realities. One leads to shame, the other to patience. That's the power of your lens. And here's something even more profound. Your lens doesn't just shape how you feel about life, it shapes what you notice in life. Neuroscientists call this the reticular activating system, or RAS. It's a filter in your brain that decides what information gets your attention. If you buy a red car, suddenly you see red cars everywhere. If you decide you're unlucky, your brain scans the world for proof of that. If you decide you're capable, it starts noticing opportunities, allies, and signs of progress. Your belief literally changes what you see. I saw this play out with a client named Marcus. He'd been passed over for a promotion for weeks. He walked around convinced it meant he wasn't good enough. He saw every sideways glance, every quiet meeting, as confirmation. Then, in one session, we shifted his lens. We asked, what if this isn't rejection, but redirection? Within days, he noticed a new project opening up, one better aligned with his strengths. He applied. He got it. And within a year, he was leading a team twice the size. The opportunity was always there, but his old lens made him blind to it. So ask yourself, when life hands you a setback, a rejection, a loss, a failure, what story do you tell yourself? Do you say, this proves I'm not enough? Or do you whisper, this is redirecting me? The event itself is neutral. It's your interpretation that gives it power. And that interpretation, that's your lens. Here's the shift. Stop asking, why is this happening to me? Start asking, what is this revealing to me? Because perception doesn't just reflect your world, it creates it. Twist the lens, and the entire landscape changes. Change the story, and the ending changes with it. And that leads me to a question I want you to carry with you. What if the worst moment of your life was actually the seed of your greatest transformation? Think about it. That breakup that shattered you, did it lead you to rediscover your independence? That job you lost? Did it push you toward work that truly aligns with your soul? That failure you're ashamed of? Did it teach you a lesson no success ever could? Viktor Frankl didn't just survive Auschwitz. He found purpose in the midst of horror. And because of that, millions have found hope in their own darkness. Your pain doesn't have to be meaningless, but it won't become meaningful until you choose a new lens. So today, right now, I invite you to pause. Look at one situation in your life that feels heavy and ask, how else could I see this? Not to deny your feelings, but to expand your vision. Because the field hasn't changed. The sunrise is still there. The wildflowers are still blooming. You just need to adjust your lens, and suddenly, the whole world comes into focus. Hold that truth. We'll build on it in the next chapter. Chapter 2. From Scarcity to Abundance. Let me tell you about two fish. They swim in the exact same pond, same water, same temperature, same boundaries. But one fish darts in frantic circles, gills flaring, convinced the water is running out. It bumps into rocks, exhausts itself, and lives in constant panic. The other fish glides smoothly, tail swaying with ease, sensing the water not as limited, but as endless, nourishing, and alive. Same pond, same reality, two entirely different lives. And the only difference? Their mindset. This is the great illusion most of us live under, that scarcity is real. But scarcity isn't about what you have. It's about what you believe. From the time we're children, we're taught scarcity as truth. Turn off the lights. We're wasting electricity. Don't ask for too much. You'll be disappointed. Good jobs like that don't come around often. These aren't just warnings, they're seeds. And over time, they grow into deep-rooted beliefs that shape how we see everything. Money, love, time, opportunity, even our own worth. I remember a client named Daniel. He came to me after losing his job in a corporate layoff. On paper, he had savings, skills, and a strong network. But his mind was screaming, "This is it. I'll never recover. I'm falling behind." He saw every job posting as already taken, every networking call as bothering someone, every day without an offer as proof he wasn't good enough. That's scarcity in action. It doesn't just say, "I don't have enough." It whispers, "I'll never be enough." But then something shifted. During one session, I asked him, "What if this isn't an ending, but a reset? What if the universe is clearing space for something better aligned with who you're becoming?" At first, he resisted, but slowly, he began to entertain the idea. He stopped scanning job boards with dread. Instead, he asked, "What kind of work would truly light me up?" He reached out to old colleagues, not to beg for help, but to reconnect with curiosity. And within 8 weeks, he was offered a role that paid more, offered remote flexibility, and aligned with his values. The opportunity was always there, but his scarcity lens made him blind to it. Now let's be clear. Abundance isn't denial. It's not pretending bills don't exist or pain isn't real. Abundance is a perspective, a choice to focus on what's possible, not just what's missing. Think about gratitude. When you genuinely say thank you for what you already have, your morning coffee, a roof over your head, a friend who checks in, something shifts in your brain. Neuroscience shows that gratitude activates the hypothalamus and releases dopamine, the brain's feel-good chemical. In other words, gratitude doesn't just reflect joy, it creates it. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more you appreciate what you have, the more you attract. Not because the universe magically delivers, but because your brain starts noticing opportunities, connections, and resources you previously overlooked. Scarcity says, "I can't afford to take that risk." Abundance says, "How can I make this work?" Scarcity sees a closed door and walks away. Abundance knocks, looks for a window, or builds a new entrance. This applies far beyond money. In relationships, scarcity says, "There's no one good left." Love is rare. But abundance says, "Love is everywhere. I just need to show up as someone worth loving." In health, scarcity says, "My body is broken. I'll never feel strong again." Abundance says, "My body is healing, one choice at a time." Even in time, scarcity screams, "I'll never get it all done." Abundance breathes, "I have enough time for what truly matters." I also think of my grandmother. She lived through the Great Depression. She saved rubber bands, washed foil to reuse it, and cut soap slivers into new bars. For her, scarcity was survival, but she never let it poison her spirit. Every Sunday, she'd bake bread and give half to neighbors. "Plenty to share," she'd say with a wink. She had little, but lived in abundance, because abundance isn't about quantity, it's about generosity of spirit. So tonight, before you sleep, try this simple practice. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. Not grand achievements, not future dreams, just small, real, present moment gifts. The way sunlight hit your window this morning. A laugh that lightened your mood. The fact that, despite everything, you're still here, still trying. Do this for 7 days, not to fix your life, but to see it differently. Because the pond was never empty. You were just swimming with your eyes closed. And that brings me to a question I want you to sit with. What abundance is already surrounding you that your scarcity lens has made invisible? Maybe it's the friend who always answers your call. Maybe it's the skill you've mastered without realizing. Maybe it's the simple fact that you woke up today with another chance to choose a new lens. Hold that. We'll explore it deeper soon. Chapter 3: The Bridge Between Thought and Reality. When I was 17, I stumbled onto something I didn't understand at the time. Back then, there was no such thing as unlimited calls or endless data. If I wanted to talk to a friend, I couldn't just reach for a phone and expect a connection. I had no way of contacting them. So instead, I would step outside, quietly think about them, sometimes even whisper in my mind, "Call me." And the strange thing is, within 5 or 10 minutes, my phone would ring. Again and again, it happened. At that age, I didn't analyze it. I didn't sit down and wonder what law or force was at work. I simply accepted it as normal, but years later, I look back and realize I had stumbled onto a truth many of us overlook. Thoughts are not passive. They are signals. They travel. They connect. Think about Wi-Fi. You don't see the signal, but it's there, invisible, constant, carrying data across space until it finds the right device. Our thoughts work much the same way. You broadcast, often unconsciously, and the world, or the people in it, respond. This isn't mystical speculation. It's supported by neuroscience and psychology. Your brain is constantly sending out electrochemical signals that influence your behavior, your posture, your tone of voice, even your facial expressions. And other people pick up on those signals, often without realizing it. But it goes deeper than that. Your thoughts shape your expectations, and your expectations shape your actions, and your actions shape your results. Athletes have known this secret for decades. Michael Phelps, before his Olympic races, would close his eyes and visualize every single stroke of his swim. He didn't just see the water, he felt it, heard it, lived it in his mind. He rehearsed not just success, but also how he'd respond to setbacks, like goggles filling with water, which actually happened in one final. Because he'd already lived that moment in his imagination, he stayed calm, adjusted, and won gold. This is the bridge between thought and reality. What you rehearse in the unseen becomes what you perform in the seen. What you expect internally often finds a way to express itself externally. Maybe you've experienced this too. You think of someone you haven't spoken to in years, only to have them message you that same day. Or you wake up with a quiet sense that something important will happen, and then it does. Some call it coincidence. Others call it intuition. I call it alignment. And here's the deeper shift. Most of us are already using this bridge unconsciously, but not in our favor. We think, I'll probably mess this up, and then we do. We say to ourselves, no one ever notices me, and suddenly every interaction confirms it. The bridge doesn't judge. It doesn't filter good from bad. It simply delivers on what you're broadcasting. So what if you started sending new signals? What if, instead of doubt, you rehearsed success? What if, instead of fear, you practiced courage in your mind until it became second nature? I worked with a client named Marcus who was terrified of public speaking. Every time he had to present, his mind would race. I'll freeze. They'll think I'm incompetent. And sure enough, he'd stumble, lose his train of thought, and feel humiliated. We didn't work on his slides. We worked on his inner broadcast. For 2 weeks, every night, he'd close his eyes and imagine himself speaking with calm confidence. He'd see the audience nodding, leaning in, smiling. He'd feel his breath steady, his voice clear, his mind sharp. The next time he presented, something shifted. He wasn't perfect, but he was present. And afterward, 3 colleagues said, "You seemed so at ease up there." His outer reality changed because his inner signal changed. This is available to you, right now. You don't need special powers. You just need awareness and repetition. So tonight, before you sleep, try this. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself handling tomorrow's biggest challenge with quiet confidence. See it in detail. Feel the calm in your chest. Hear your steady voice. Do this for 5 minutes. Not to fake it, but to train it. Because your nervous system learns through repetition, whether the experience is real or imagined. Pause for a moment and reflect. What are you broadcasting every day without realizing it? What channels are you tuned into? Because just like Wi-Fi, your thoughts have a frequency. And whether you're conscious of it or not, the world is listening. It always has been. And it's already responding. Chapter 4. Breaking the Chains of Limiting Beliefs. Picture a bird inside a cage. The door is wide open. Sunlight spills in. The sky stretches endlessly beyond the bars. And yet, the bird doesn't leave. It sits on its perch, singing the same small song, because it doesn't believe it can fly beyond those bars. That's what limiting beliefs do. They keep us imprisoned, even when the way out is right in front of us. We say to ourselves, I'm not smart enough. I don't have what it takes. People like me don't succeed. And just like that bird, we stay perched inside invisible cages. But here's the liberating truth. A belief is nothing more than a repeated thought, and thoughts can be changed. Take Thomas Edison. History tells us he failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. Most people would have taken those failures as proof that they weren't capable, that success was impossible. But Edison didn't see failure as a cage. He reframed it. He said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." For him, every attempt wasn't a dead end. It was a doorway. His belief wasn't that he was failing. His belief was that he was learning. And that's the shift. Limiting beliefs are just old stories you've accepted as truth. Maybe someone told you as a child that you weren't good at something. Maybe you stumbled once and decided you weren't meant for it. But none of those stories are final. You can rewrite them. I worked with a woman named Lena who believed she was bad with money. She'd overspent once in her 20s, and for 20 years, that one mistake defined her. She avoided budgets, feared investing, and saw every financial decision as a potential disaster. Then we asked, what if that wasn't proof of failure, but a lesson in awareness? She started small, tracked her spending for 1 week, celebrated tiny wins, like cooking at home instead of ordering out. Within months, she'd built an emergency fund, paid off credit card debt, and even started investing in a low-risk index fund. The money didn't change. Her belief did, and that's the key. Your beliefs aren't facts. They're filters, and filters can be cleaned or replaced. Another client, James, grew up hearing, "You'll never be a leader. You're too quiet." For years, he stayed in the background, letting louder voices take credit for his ideas. He believed leadership required charisma, not clarity. But then he read about leaders like Rosa Parks, whose power came not from volume, but from unwavering presence. He began to reframe his quiet nature not as weakness, but as depth. He started speaking up in meetings, not with force, but with precision. Within a year, he was promoted to team lead, not because he changed who he was, but because he changed what he believed about himself. So try this exercise right now. Think of one belief that weighs you down, something you tell yourself often. Maybe it's, "I'm always unlucky," or "I'll never get ahead," or "I'm not creative enough." Now flip it. Ask yourself, what if this belief wasn't a prison, but a lesson? Instead of saying, "I've failed too many times," reframe it to, "I've trained more than most people will ever dare to." Instead of, "No one believes in me," shift to, "I'm building strength no one else can see yet." This isn't positive thinking. It's truth-seeking. Because the old belief was never the whole truth, just one interpretation of a moment. And here's something powerful. Your brain believes what you repeat. So if you've said, "I'm not good at this" 100 times, your nervous system treats it as fact. But if you start saying, "I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm capable," your brain begins to look for evidence to support that new story. It's called confirmation bias, and you can use it for your growth instead of your limitation. The door has been open all along. The cage was never real. The only thing holding you back was the story you kept telling yourself. So here's the curiosity I want to leave you with. What bars are you holding on to that were never really there? What chains are you dragging that are made only of thought? Maybe it's the belief that you need permission to succeed. Maybe it's the idea that your past mistakes define your future. Maybe it's the quiet assumption that you don't belong in the room you dream of entering. But what if none of that is true? What if you've been free all along, and you just forgot to step through the open door? Because the sky hasn't changed, the wind hasn't stopped, Your wings haven't vanished. You were born to fly. You just need to believe it, long enough to leap. Chapter 5. Resilience. Turning setbacks into stepping stones. Life has a way of stretching us, like a rubber band pulled to its limit. At first, it feels uncomfortable, almost unbearable. Your muscles ache. Your breath catches. You wonder if you'll snap. But once the tension eases, you realize the stretch didn't break you. It made you stronger, more flexible, more capable than before. That's resilience, not the absence of struggle, but the ability to transform struggle into strength. Think of Oprah Winfrey. Early in her career, she was told she wasn't fit for television. Imagine that. One of the most influential media figures of all time was once told she didn't have the look, the voice, or the presence for TV. Most people would have crumbled under that rejection. Oprah didn't. She took the criticism, the setback, and turned it into rocket fuel. She shifted her mindset from, "They don't want me," to, "I'll show them why I belong." And in doing so, she built not just a career, but an empire that has inspired millions. Or take J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter. She was a single mother on welfare, living in a tiny apartment, struggling with depression. She wrote the first book in cafes while her baby slept. 12 publishers rejected her manuscript. 12 doors slammed in her face. And each rejection could have been the end of the road. But she didn't stop. She kept going, rewriting, refining, believing in the world she had created. And when one publisher finally said yes, it wasn't just a book that was born. It was a global phenomenon that reshaped children's literature and gave hope to dreamers everywhere. Resilience isn't about being unbreakable. It's about being willing to bend and then rise again. I remember a young man named Elijah who came to me after his startup failed. He'd poured 2 years, all his savings, and his heart into an app that never gained traction. He felt like a fraud, a failure, a disappointment to his family. For weeks, he barely left his apartment. Then one morning, he asked himself a new question. What did this teach me that success never could? The answer changed everything. He'd learned how to pitch to investors, how to build a team, how to handle rejection. He realized his failure wasn't the end. It was his education. Within a year, he co-founded a new company, this time in a space he truly understood. It's now thriving. Resilience is about the stories you tell yourself when life says no. Some people hear no and make it their identity. I was rejected, so I must not be worthy. Others hear no and make it a stepping stone. This rejection is proof I'm getting closer. This setback is sharpening me. Think about your own life. Where have you been stretched? Where has life pulled you to the breaking point? Maybe it was a relationship ending that left you hollow. Maybe it was losing a job that you tied your identity to. Maybe it was a health diagnosis that turned your world upside down. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still listening, still moving forward. Resilience doesn't mean you didn't hurt. It doesn't mean you didn't cry or doubt or question everything. It means you chose to get back up. You chose to rise again. And that choice, repeated over time, becomes your strength. Neuroscience shows that every time you face adversity and keep going, your brain builds new neural pathways associated with courage and adaptability. In other words, resilience isn't something you're born with. It's something you build through practice. So let me ask you this. What if the setbacks in your life weren't stop signs, but signposts? What if every time life pushed you down, it was pointing you toward something greater? What if your greatest heartbreak was preparing you for deeper love? What if your professional failure was clearing space for work that truly aligns with your soul? The rubber band may stretch, but it doesn't snap. It holds. And so do you. You've held through grief you thought would drown you. You've held through silence that felt like abandonment. You've held through nights when hope seemed like a distant memory. And still, you're here. That's not luck. That's resilience. So the next time life stretches you, don't curse the tension. Thank it. Because it's not breaking you. It's making you ready for what's coming next. And what's coming next is yours. Chapter 6. Identity Shift, Becoming Who You Believe You Are. A snake cannot grow without shedding its skin. It must let go of the old, the tight, the limiting, in order to expand into the new. Humans are the same. To grow into our fullest selves, we must shed the identities that no longer fit. Here's the truth most people miss. We don't act according to what we want most. We act according to who we believe we are. Identity drives behavior. Arnold Schwarzenegger once said he saw himself as already Mr. Olympia long before he actually won the title. He carried himself, trained, spoke, and moved like the champion he believed he was. His body followed the blueprint his mind had already drawn. He didn't just want to be Mr. Olympia, he identified as Mr. Olympia. And that identity pulled him into alignment with his destiny. Now think about this in your own life. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, you will unconsciously create more struggle. If you see yourself as unlucky, you'll notice every unlucky break. But if you begin to see yourself as a creator, as someone capable, as someone worthy, your brain will start scanning for evidence to confirm that identity. It's not about pretending. It's not about fake confidence. It's about choosing the version of yourself you want to live into and rehearsing it until it feels natural. I worked with a woman named Priya who spent years identifying as the quiet one in her family. Always overlooked, never heard. She carried that identity into her career, staying silent in meetings, downplaying her ideas, assuming no one wanted to listen. Then she asked herself, what if I'm not the quiet one, but the thoughtful one? That small shift changed everything. She began speaking with calm authority. She stopped apologizing for her voice. Within a year, she was leading projects, mentoring junior staff, and finally feeling seen. She didn't change her personality. She changed her identity. And that's the key. Your identity isn't fixed. It's fluid. And you get to choose it every single day. Try this right now. Close your eyes and imagine yourself 5 years from now. Picture the version of you that has stepped fully into their purpose. Strong, confident, abundant, peaceful. See the way they walk, not with arrogance, but with quiet assurance. Hear the way they speak, not loud, but clear and kind. Notice how they carry themselves in a room, not seeking attention, but radiating presence. Now, step into that version. Don't just observe them, become them. Feel it in your body. Let it settle into your bones. This isn't fantasy. This is rehearsal. Just as an actor rehearses lines until they become second nature, you can rehearse your new identity until it becomes who you are. Because your nervous system doesn't know the difference between vivid imagination and real experience. So when you consistently imagine yourself as calm, capable, and worthy, your body begins to believe it, your actions follow, and your life transforms. I remember when I first started speaking publicly, I identified as the shy kid who stumbles over words. Every time I stood up to talk, my hands shook, my voice cracked, my mind went blank. Then I made a decision. I am not someone who gets nervous. I am someone who shares truth with clarity. I repeated it like a mantra. I visualized myself speaking with ease. I walked into rooms as if I belonged there, because I decided I did. It didn't happen overnight, but slowly, my outer reality began to match my inner identity. So ask yourself, what identity are you clinging to that no longer fits? Is it, I'm bad with money? I'm not a people person? I'm just not the type to succeed? What if those aren't truths, but costumes you've outgrown? And who could you become if you dared to believe you already were that person? Identity is not fixed. It is fluid. And the moment you choose to shift it, everything else begins to shift with it. You don't rise to your goals. You rise to your identity. So choose wisely. Choose boldly. Choose the self you were always meant to be. Chapter 7. Alignment with Purpose. Imagine a ship without a compass. It drifts aimlessly, pushed and pulled by the waves, tossed about by every storm. Now imagine that same ship with a compass pointing true north. The storms don't disappear, the waves don't vanish, but suddenly, the ship has direction. It knows where it's going. That's what purpose does for us. It doesn't erase the challenges of life, but it gives them meaning. It turns obstacles into navigation points. It transforms confusion into clarity. So many people live their lives like that first ship, drifting, reacting, surviving day to day. They wake up, go through the motions, handle the tasks, but inside they feel unanchored. They ask themselves quietly, what's the point of all this? And without purpose, even small problems feel heavy. But with purpose, even big problems feel manageable. I once knew a nurse named Elena who thought of her work as just a job. She clocked in, checked vitals, followed routines. It was exhausting. Every shift felt like a drain. One day, after a particularly hard night, she sat in her car and cried. Then she asked herself, what if I'm not just doing tasks, but holding space for healing? She reframed her role. She said to herself, I'm not just checking vitals, I'm holding lives in my hands. I'm bringing comfort to people on their hardest days. The tasks didn't change. The patients didn't change. But her sense of purpose shifted. Suddenly, the work wasn't just work, it was a calling. Or consider a builder. He could see himself as just laying bricks, But another builder sees each brick as part of a school where children will learn, a home where families will laugh, a hospital where lives will be saved. Purpose reframes every action into something larger than itself. And here's the secret. Purpose isn't always loud. It doesn't always show up as some grand mission written in the sky. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it's as simple as choosing to make your family feel loved, choosing to create something beautiful, choosing to serve, even in small ways. I met a janitor at a high school who told me, "I'm not just cleaning floors. I'm helping kids feel safe and respected in their space." His paycheck was the same as others, but his experience of work was completely different because he was aligned with purpose. So ask yourself, what values matter most to you? What makes your heart feel alive? Purpose is not about what looks impressive to others. It's about what feels aligned to you. When your actions line up with your values, you move like that ship with a compass. The storms may still come, but you know where you're headed. And alignment isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. Every morning, you get to choose. Will I act from fear or from meaning? Will I chase approval or live by my truth? Neuroscience shows that when you act in alignment with your core values, your brain releases oxytocin and serotonin, the chemicals of trust and well-being. In other words, purpose doesn't just give life meaning. It makes life feel good. So the shift is this. Stop searching for purpose as something outside of you, and start aligning your daily choices with the truth already inside you. You don't need to quit your job to find purpose. You don't need to start a nonprofit or go viral. You just need to ask, how can I bring my values into what I'm already doing? If you value creativity, bring it to your spreadsheets. If you value connection, bring it to your emails. If you value integrity, bring it to your silence. Purpose isn't a destination, it's a direction. And the beautiful thing is, you already know your direction. You just have to listen. So tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself, what made me feel most alive today? When did I feel like I was exactly where I was meant to be? The answer might be small, a conversation, a moment of focus, a quiet act of kindness. But that's where purpose lives, not in the spotlight, but in the sacred ordinary. Because when you're aligned, even the smallest action ripples with meaning, and that is enough. Chapter 8. The Ripple Effect of Mindset. Throw a stone into a lake and watch the ripples expand. They stretch outward in perfect circles, touching the surface far beyond where the stone entered. That's what your mindset does. Every thought, every belief, every action sends ripples into the lives of others. A teacher once told me she used to think of her job as ordinary. She thought she was just teaching. But then she reframed her mindset. She said, I'm not just teaching, I'm shaping the next generation. I'm helping young minds discover their potential. That one shift didn't just change her own experience. It rippled outward to her students. They felt her passion. They caught her belief in them. And those ripples will echo through their lives, through their families, through the people they will one day influence. Think about this. Your mindset doesn't stop at you. It radiates. When you walk into a room heavy with negativity, people feel it. When you walk into a room filled with calm confidence, people feel that too. You don't even have to say a word. Your presence alone creates ripples. I remember my teenage story about mentally asking my friends to call me. That was a ripple too. A thought, a signal, an invisible wave sent out, and someone responded. It showed me early on that mindset is not isolated. It's relational. It moves. It spreads. So what ripples are you creating? Are you sending out waves of fear and doubt that circle back to you in the form of missed opportunities? Or are you sending out ripples of hope, courage, and abundance that find their way into the lives of others and return multiplied? The truth is, you never really know how far your ripples reach. A smile at a stranger might shift their entire day. A kind word might give someone the courage not to give up. A small act of belief in someone might change the course of their life. I think of a man named David who worked in customer service. He was tired, underpaid, and ready to quit. Then he decided, what if I treated every call as a chance to make someone feel seen? He started listening deeply, speaking gently, offering patience instead of scripts. Customers began asking for him by name. His team noticed. His manager promoted him. But the real ripple. One caller later wrote to the company saying, "Your rep gave me hope on the worst day of my life. I didn't end it because of him." David never knew, but his mindset saved a life. That's the power you hold, right now. Your energy is contagious. Your calm can steady someone else's storm. Your belief can reignite someone else's dream, and it works both ways. When you surround yourself with people who radiate courage, their ripples lift you too. This is why mindset isn't just personal. It's collective. It's not just for you. It's for everyone your life touches. So next time you think your mindset doesn't matter, remember the stone, remember the ripples, and know that with every thought, every action, every choice, you are shaping not just your world, but the world of those around you. Even your silence speaks. Even your posture communicates. Even the way you breathe in a room changes the air. You are never just one person. You are a source, a center of influence, a quiet force of change. So choose your ripples wisely. Ask yourself, what kind of energy do I want to send out today? Not to be perfect, not to perform, but to participate fully, kindly, intentionally in the web of human connection. Because the lake is always listening, and every stone you drop matters. Chapter 9. The Power of Questions. Questions are like keys. They unlock doors inside the mind that you didn't even know were there. A single well-placed question can shift your perspective more than 100 statements ever could. Think about it. When something difficult happens, most people ask, "Why is this happening to me?" And that question, innocent as it seems, points the mind toward victimhood. It invites blame, pity, helplessness. But if you change the question to, "What is this teaching me?" suddenly the mind shifts gears. It starts looking for growth. It searches for lessons. It opens to possibility. Tony Robbins once said, "The quality of your life is the quality of your questions." And he's right. Because your brain is a problem-solving machine. Whatever question you ask, it will try to answer. If you ask, "Why am I such a failure?" your mind will dig up every memory to prove you right. But if you ask, "How can I rise from this?" your mind will get to work on solutions. I remember meeting a man named David who had lost his business during an economic crash. At first, he kept asking, "Why me? Why now? Why does this always happen to me?" And every day, he sank deeper into despair. But one morning, almost in desperation, he shifted the question. He asked, "What can I build now with what I know?" That single question reframed his entire path. He realized he'd learned more about resilience, customer needs, and lean operations in failure than he ever did in success. Within months, he started a new venture, this time as a consultant, helping other small businesses avoid the mistakes he'd made. It succeeded beyond anything he had imagined. The difference wasn't luck, it was the question. So let me ask you, what questions are you living by right now? Do they shrink you, or do they expand you? Do they trap you, or do they unlock new doors? Most of us run on autopilot with disempowering questions. What if I mess up? Why don't they like me? When will things finally get easier? These questions keep you small. They anchor you in fear. But what if you swapped them for empowering ones? Instead of, "Can I really do this?" ask, "How can I make this possible?" Instead of, "Why doesn't anyone support me?" ask, "How can I support myself while attracting the right people?" Instead of, "Why does this always happen?" ask, "What pattern am I ready to break?" This isn't just wordplay, it's cognitive rewiring. Every time you ask a new question, you force your brain to search in a new direction. You activate different neural pathways. You open doors you didn't know existed. I worked with a woman named Maya who kept asking, "Why am I still single?" Her mind gave her answers like, "You're too picky," or "You're not attractive enough." Then we changed the question to, "What kind of relationship am I ready to create?" Suddenly, she stopped focusing on lack and started focusing on readiness. She began working on her own boundaries, her communication, her joy. Within a year, she met someone who matched her energy, not because she found love, but because she became someone love could find. The answers you receive will only ever be as powerful as the questions you ask. So choose wisely. And here's the deeper truth. You are always asking questions, consciously or not. The only choice you have is, which ones will you choose on purpose? So tonight, before you sleep, try this. Write down one question you've been asking yourself that keeps you stuck. Then rewrite it as a question that sets you free. Let that new question live in your mind like a seed. Water it with curiosity. Watch what grows. Because the right question doesn't just change your mind, it changes your life. And the most powerful question of all might be this: what if I'm asking the wrong questions, and the right ones are waiting just beneath the surface? Listen closely. They're already there. Chapter 10. The Practice of Presence. The mind loves to wander. It drifts to the past, replaying old mistakes, regrets, moments you can't change. Or it rushes into the future, predicting disasters, rehearsing fears, imagining scenarios that may never happen. And in doing so, it robs you of the only place where life actually happens. Here, now. Think of driving a car. If you stare only into the rearview mirror, you'll crash. If you stare only at the GPS, you'll miss what's right in front of you. The only safe way forward is to look at the road beneath your wheels, this very moment. Life works the same way. The present is the road. The past is the rear view. The future is the map. But the real journey happens only now. Eckhart Tolle, in The Power of Now, described how his life transformed when he realized he was not his thoughts. He was the awareness behind them. And in that awareness, he discovered presence. It wasn't about erasing the past or ignoring the future. It was about returning over and over to the present moment. So how do we practice presence? It begins with noticing. Notice your breath. The inhale, slow and steady. The exhale, releasing tension you didn't know you were holding. Notice the way your body feels in this moment. The weight of your feet on the floor. The rise and fall of your chest. Notice the sounds around you. The hum of a fan, distant traffic, birds outside your window. Every time your mind drifts, gently guide it back to here, to now. Not with frustration, but with kindness. Because presence isn't a destination. It's a return, and you get to come home again and again. And presence isn't only for meditation, it's for living. Imagine having a conversation where you're fully there, not half scrolling your phone, not planning what to say next, just listening, seeing, being with the other person. Imagine eating a meal and truly tasting every bite. The salt, the texture, the warmth, instead of rushing through it while watching a screen. Imagine walking outside and actually seeing the sky, feeling the air on your skin, noticing the way light hits the leaves, the ground beneath your feet, the rhythm of your steps. These aren't extraordinary moments. They're ordinary moments, made extraordinary by your attention. Because it's not what you're doing that matters most. It's how much of you is actually there. Neuroscience shows that when you're fully present, your amygdala, the brain's fear center, calms down. Your prefrontal cortex, the seat of clarity and compassion, lights up. In other words, presence isn't just peaceful, it's powerful. It's in presence that you make your best decisions. It's in presence that you connect deeply with others. It's in presence that you feel truly alive. Yet we spend most of our lives anywhere but here. We eat while working. We talk while thinking about something else. We scroll while ignoring the people right in front of us. And then we wonder why we feel empty, disconnected, exhausted. But the cure is always available. It's as close as your next breath. So the shift is this. Stop waiting for happiness someday in the future. Stop reliving pain from the past. Bring yourself here, into this moment, into this breath. Because presence is not a luxury, it's life itself. And the beautiful irony? You've never actually left the present. Your body is always here. Only your mind has wandered. So come back. Feel your feet on the ground. Hear the quiet hum of now. Let the past rest. Let the future wait. This moment is enough. This breath is home. And the more you return, the more you realize you were never lost. You were just distracted. So pause now, just for 3 seconds. Breathe in, breathe out. Welcome back. Chapter 11. Rewiring through gratitude. Gratitude is more than just polite words. It's not a casual thank you or a fleeting moment of appreciation. Gratitude is a practice, a way of seeing, a way of rewiring the brain itself. Neuroscience shows that when you feel genuine gratitude, the same areas of your brain light up as when you experience joy. In other words, gratitude doesn't just reflect happiness. It creates it. It shifts your state from lack to abundance, from stress to calm, from fear to trust. Think about the last time you felt truly grateful. Maybe it was a warm cup of coffee on a cold morning, a text from a friend who just wanted to check in, the quiet comfort of your bed after a long day. In that moment, did you feel lack? Or did you feel full? That's the power of gratitude. It fills you up from the inside out. Oprah Winfrey once shared her practice of keeping a gratitude journal. Every night, she would write down 5 things she was thankful for. Some nights, they were big things. A career breakthrough, a meaningful conversation, a moment of clarity. Other nights, they were small. A good meal, the sound of laughter, sunlight through the window. Over time, this practice changed her brain's default setting. Instead of scanning for problems, her mind began scanning for blessings. And that's the secret. Your brain is like a search engine. Type in "what's wrong," and it will give you an endless list. Type in "what's right," and it will give you that instead. Gratitude is the search term that brings blessings into focus. Think about this. How often do we focus on what's missing, what we haven't achieved, what we don't have yet? Scarcity thrives on that focus. But the moment you pause and say, "Look at what I already have. Look at what's already working. Look at the people, the opportunities, the moments that surround me," something shifts. You stop swimming in scarcity. You begin breathing in abundance. Try this tonight. Before you close your eyes, write down 3 small things you're grateful for. Not big achievements, small things. The smile of a stranger, a meal that nourished you, the fact that, despite everything, you are still here. Then notice tomorrow how your lens changes, how your mind starts to look for more of those moments. Gratitude is contagious inside the brain. The more you practice it, the more it multiplies. And it's not about denying pain or pretending everything is perfect. Gratitude isn't the absence of struggle. It's the presence of perspective. You can be grieving and grateful. You can be broke and grateful. You can be lost and grateful. Because gratitude isn't about your circumstances. It's about your attention. Where you place your focus, your energy flows. So if you keep looking for what's wrong, you'll find it. But if you train yourself to notice what's right, even in the smallest way, you begin to rewire your nervous system for peace. Studies show that people who practice daily gratitude report lower levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, better sleep, stronger immune function, deeper relationships. This isn't just feel-good advice, it's biology. Your body responds to the stories your mind tells. So why not tell a story that includes the good that's already here? You don't need more to be grateful. You need gratitude to see what you already have. And the beautiful thing is, the more you see, the more you receive. Not because the universe magically delivers, but because you start showing up differently. You become open, you become receptive, you become a magnet for more goodness. So the shift here is simple. Stop waiting for everything to be perfect before you give thanks. Gratitude is not the result of happiness. Gratitude is the cause of it, and it's available to you right now, in this breath, in this moment, in this life that is already full of gifts. You've been too busy to notice. So pause, look around, and say thank you. Not because life is perfect, but because it's yours. Chapter 12. Living in the Shift. We've walked a long road together, from the lens of perception to the power of presence, from scarcity to abundance, from limiting beliefs to liberated identity, from drifting without direction to sailing with purpose. And now, as we reach the end of this journey, I want you to know something deeply. You were never broken. You were only seeing through a lens that hadn't been cleaned yet. Mindset isn't a one-time decision. It's not a switch you flip and forget. It's a daily practice, a quiet choice you make again and again, in the small moments no one sees. Living in the shift means waking up and asking, what lens am I wearing today? Am I seeing lack or possibility? Am I clinging to an old story or stepping into a new identity? Am I reacting to life or responding from alignment? It means knowing that every setback is a setup. Every no is a redirection. Every heartbreak is making space for a love that fits. It means understanding that your thoughts are signals, and the world is always listening. It means gratitude isn't just for good days. It's your anchor on hard ones. And most of all, it means remembering this truth. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the author of your story. The lens maker, the signal sender, the ripple creator. When I think back to my teenage self, standing on that porch, whispering, "Call me," watching the phone ring minutes later, I realize I wasn't just hoping, I was expecting. I was already living in the shift before I had the words to name it. Now, you have those words, and with them, you have power. So don't just listen to these ideas. Live them. Pick one shift and practice it today. Rewrite one belief that no longer serves you. Ask one better question. Send one new signal into the world. Because the life you want isn't waiting in some distant future. It's being built right now by the choices you make in this moment. This isn't about being perfect. Some days, the old lens will slip back on. You'll see scarcity when abundance is all around. You'll hear the voice of doubt louder than the whisper of faith, and that's okay. The shift isn't about never falling. It's about how quickly you return. Every time you notice, every time you choose again, you strengthen the new path. I think of Viktor Frankl in Auschwitz, choosing meaning in the midst of horror. I think of Oprah, told she wasn't fit for TV, building an empire of empathy. I think of you, reading these words, still showing up, still believing change is possible. That's courage. That's resilience. That's the shift in action. So keep going. Keep choosing. Keep trusting that even your smallest step matters. Because the world needs the version of you that lives in the shift. The one who sees light in the cracks. Who finds strength in softness. Who knows that a single thought can change everything. And never forget. You don't need to wait for permission. You don't need to be ready. You don't need more time, more money, more validation. You already have everything you need, right here, right now. So take a breath, feel your feet on the ground, and know this. The shift isn't coming someday. It's not waiting for the stars to align. It begins now, with you, with this choice, with this breath. So choose. Not tomorrow. Not when it's easier. Now. Let this be the moment you stop waiting and start living from the truth you've just remembered. You matter. And if these words found you for a reason, pass them on. Share this with someone who's forgotten their own light, because the greatest gift you can give is the reminder that they too are already enough. Thank you for walking this path. Your shift ripples further than you know. Now go, gently, bravely, fully you.